Hello and welcome to the Ayrton Senna International Circuit located in Goiânia, just about 200 kilometers from Brasilia, Brazil's capital. We are about to start the first race of the third round of the Porsche Cup C6 Bank MasterCard Sprint Championship. We had 2 rounds so far, first in Interlagos, second at Velocitar. We also had 1 round for the Endurance Series in Interlagos, and now it's time for the third round, which will mark the end of half of the season for the Sprint Championship. Early today in qualifying, Nicolas Costa got the pole position for the Carrera Cup, and then Christian Moore got the pole position for the Sprint Challenge. We're going to be following these 2 races now in this circuit with 3,835 meters and 13 turns. I am Sergio Lago, and I'll be joined here by Carlos Costa. Hello, Carlos.
Hello, Sergio. A very big pleasure to be here with you to broadcast one more round of the Brazilian Porsche Cup Championship. 2 races today, then 2 races tomorrow, Carrera Cup Championship and Sprint Challenge Championship. So an action-packed weekend for Porsche Brazil at Goiânia, the third round out of 6 in this 2023 season of the Sprint Championships that we have in Porsche Brazil. We also have the Endurance Challenge Series that has realized.
Muito boa tarde, Luque Monteiro, Thiago Mendonça, todos os fãs de velocidade, de automobilismo, aos fãs da Porsche Cup Brasil. Sim, estou bem perto dos pilotos, inclusive estou em frente ao box do Nicolas Costa, que está vindo já para entrar no carro, todo equipado de capacete, tudo pronto aqui. Realmente, este final de semana começou diferente para ele, acho que vai terminar também de uma forma muito boa, assim a gente torce sempre. Estarei por aqui trazendo as notícias em primeira mão de tudo que está acontecendo por aqui. Podem contar comigo.
Yeah, we just heard from Renata Diniz talking about the fact that she will be interviewing the drivers and so on, but I was talking about the fact that we are reaching halfway of the season, Sergio, in the Sprint Championships, both Carrera and Sprint Challenge. We had already 1 round of the Endurance Challenge Series, the 300 kilometers race of Interlagos. We will have 2 more rounds of the Endurance Series, but now the focus is in the Sprint Championship that we have this weekend at Goiânia, the International Ayrton Senna Circuit, a clockwise circuit, very high speed one of the most traditional circuits in Brazil. We had a very interesting qualifying session earlier today, actually 2 qualifying sessions in both the Carrera and the Sprint Challenge Championship. And so far, so good for Nicolas Costa, as you said, a former Endurance Challenge driver, now making his debut in the Sprint
Falando em adaptação, está muito mais quente agora. O que é feito de ajuste no carro para enfrentar essa primeira corrida, Nicolas?
Agora tem que entender que o comportamento do carro muda bastante aí com a temperatura, né? A gente tem que fazer alguns ajustes específicos aí. Eu acho que principalmente na parte traseira do carro, que começa a superaquecer no ritmo de corrida e começa a estacionar bastante. Então o foco agora é tentar manter um pouco os pneus para ter um bom ritmo de corrida, né? Obviamente a gente tem que ver o que vai acontecer na largada ainda, mas tô bem confiante.
Fechou. Vai lá que ele já está pronto para sair. Valeu, Nicolas. Luque.
Yeah, we heard quickly there from Nicolas Costa, pole sitter. We have been talking about him so far in this broadcast. He was talking about tire management, all the aspects involved in this race, and the fact that he's leading is also an important factor. So he has to be aggressive, but also to be cautious in order to avoid incidents. It will be nice to see. And also Nicolas bouncing back to his good standards after struggling a bit in race 2 of the previous round that we had in the Sprint Championship of Carrera Cup at Velocitar. Now we go to the third round after 2 events in Interlagos and the Mogi Guaçu city in the inner state of São Paulo. Sergio.
Yes, Carlos. Right now, Miguel Paludo leads the championship with 91 points. Alceu Feldman is second, then followed by Marcel Miller and Nicolas Costa. Werner Neugebauer, who sits 6th in the championship behind Giorgio Frangoulis, who is 5th, is going to start alongside Nicolas Costa in the first row. So that might be a good opportunity for him, Carlos, to improve his situation in the championship standings, as this first race here it gives more points than the race we're going to have tomorrow on Sunday, because tomorrow on Sunday there is an inversion of the grid. There is a draw between 5th and 8th position, so it gives less points, but this race here gives 28 points to the leader, so it's really important for Werner Neugebauer, as well for Nicolas Costa, like you mentioned, but for Werner Neugebauer to climb in the championship, as usually he is always a contender, or at least he runs there on top 5 on the championship, situation which he is not currently right now, Carlos.
Yeah, that's it. And just talking about the championship standings overall, it's nice to bring the top 5. So far, we had 2 rounds, as we have been talking about, and so far so good, especially for Miguel Paludo, even though his qualifying wasn't that good earlier today, only 7th in the grid if I'm not wrong, but anyway, he leads the championship so far with 91 points, 7-time champion of Porsche Brasil, tied with Constantino Jr. as the guy with most race wins in this series history, so maybe we will see an historic victory for Paludo this weekend, but for race 1 it's quite a challenge since he starts in the middle of the pack. Right behind Paludo we'll have Alceu Feldman as second in the championship standings so far, 83 points for Alceu. Then we have Marçal Miller, 73 points, Nicolas Costa, pole sitter of race 1 this weekend, 71 points, and then Georgios Frangoulis, that already is a driver of the sport class, the intermediate class division of this Carrera Cup Championship. So interesting championship situation as we see that the cars are preparing for race start.
Talking about the Sports Championship, Carlos, Lucas Salles had a great effort during qualifying this morning. He was 3rd overall, so he started pole position among the sports class guys, but he's way ahead. Franco Giaffoni, who is the 2nd in the sports class guys, is in 8th place, so that's how far did Lucas Salles.
Bem disputado como sempre foi, né? É uma categoria extremamente competitiva, tá tudo embolado. Isso é ótimo para o campeonato.
Legal para quem está competindo aqui, também para quem está assistindo em casa, então promete ser um campeonato muito disputado até o final. Estamos chegando aí para a 3ª etapa, onde já chegamos na metade do campeonato, então agora a gente já começa a não pensar só em corridas, mas também em pontuação de campeonato. Com o descarte, nós estamos em primeiro, ou empatado em primeiro, então agora a gente começa já a fazer uns cálculos e manter uma estratégia acima das corridas.
A gente vê a competitividade de como é que é grande, não só em resultados de corrida, mas também nas classificações, sempre muito próximas, tanto na Endurance quanto na Sprint, então não é surpresa nenhuma a competitividade.
Um ponto na frente do terceiro, um ponto na frente do quarto e um ponto atrás do primeiro, então tá tudo embolado. Isso é ótimo para o campeonato, é o que o evento procura, a Porsche procura fazer.
Essa liderança até a metade do campeonato com certeza uma respirada um pouco mais calma para poder a partir de agora também ir administrando. Bastante coisa tem para acontecer ainda, mas com certeza é o começo de campeonato que vai vir aí.
Bom, o segredo é ficar na frente dele. Mas a gente está feliz aí com o desempenho até aqui. Ainda temos o recorde da pista, então se for quebrado, espero que seja por mim. Mas vamos fazer de tudo aí para tentar brigar por essa pole position, por vitórias, porque por mais que estamos na metade do campeonato, ainda tem mais 4 etapas contando com a de hoje.
O segredo a gente não sabe ainda, né? Porque ele é campeão um monte de vezes aí, eu fui campeão uma vez só. Então esse segredo aí não é fácil, ninguém conseguiu ainda. O Paludo acho que é o maior campeão da categoria, então não vai ser fácil. Ele tem tarimba, já teve ali em primeiro, então ele sabe como administrar. Não vai ser fácil, mas tem 3 pilotos aí brigando, eu acho que vai ser... Tá embaralhado o jogo, acho que não tá na mão do Paludo, mas também não tá fácil de passar ele, tá? O jogo vai ser duro.
O segredo é andar muito rápido, classificar bem e principalmente fazer a primeira curva na frente, esse é o segredo.
Pode ser um segredo, e eu ficar na frente deles, esse com certeza é um objetivo, é uma categoria extremamente competitiva, a gente vem em disputas aí bem competitivas durante o ano e com certeza a gente está um mirando o outro aí e vai continuar até a última etapa.
Nice video there with the title protagonists, as I said. we see the championship standings on the screen right now. We heard from the top four there, Paludo, Feldman, Miller, and Costa. They were asked about the secret to be the champion of Porsche Brazil. Of course, it's a difficult question, but also Feldman highlighted the fact that Paludo is one of the guys with most titles in the series, if I'm not wrong, the one with most titles, so it's quite difficult to beat him, especially when he's ahead of the pack. Feldman, already a champion of the series, has one title in Porsche Brazil. Marçal Miller, also one of the important names of this series. He has been runner-up last year, losing the title in the final stages of the season to Enzo Elias, that is not racing in Porsche Cup Brazil anymore, at least in the Sprint Championship. He's racing in the Endurance Challenge Series. And Nicolas Costa, that is the new face, I would say, to this title contention, a former Endurance Challenge driver. He was used to only race in the long races, but now starting his campaign very well in the Sprint Championship of Carrera Cup, Sergio.
Yes, exactly. And we saw there the standing, Carlos. We have to point out that 2 results will have to be discarded out of the 12 results that each driver will have at the end of the championship. So that's something that Marçal Miller mentioned, that when he discarded his bad results so far, at least one of his bad results, he is tied with Miguel Paludo. Of course, that doesn't mean that, let's say, he already used his opportunity to discard result, while we see Eamon Darwich. Because we commented during our qualifying that Eamon Darwich is not having a good year so far, and we see him in the middle of the track. He spun there. We can see the tire marks, even in the formation lap, in the lap they are going to the pits to the ceremonies to start up the race. So it's not really a good moment for Eamon Darwich, the Egyptian driver, who will start 22nd among 26 drivers that will be racing in the Carrera Cup.
Yeah, it has been an eventful weekend so far for Eamon Darwich. Poor qualified session. He is a very aggressive and fast driver, but has been struggling so far in the 2023 season. Anyway, let's see if he's able to recover and bounce back from a difficult qualifying session and that issue that we just saw. So a bit of a headache for Darwich and also his driver coach, Ricardo Mauricio, a 3-time champion of the Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series and actually a former Red Bull Junior team member. So his advisor is quite a good one, an advisor that has been actually advised by someone like Helmut Marko, the consultant, the motorsport consultant of Red Bull in Formula One. So we see that the whole environment of this Porsche Cup Brazil series is very high level, if we can say so, and we can expect a very action-packed race today. Tomorrow as well, we have race 1 for Carrera Cup now, then race 1 for Sprint Challenge, and this Sunday 2 more races for this Goiânia round. So we can expect a lot of good things, crashes, overtakes, and so on.
Yeah, usually these races in Goiânia are very action-packed. That's what we expect. Let's listen to Renata.
Ele fica com esse olhar meio sereno. O que você está planejando? Porque a gente sabe como é que é a ultrapassagem largada aqui sua, viu, Werner?
Eu estou planejando o campeonato. Eu acho que eu estou por fora. Eu vou tentar fazer uma largada mais... Não sei, vamos ver o que vai acontecer.
Ele não quer contar.
Não, de verdade, eu não sei o que vai acontecer. Depende da situação. O Nicolas é um cara rápido. Ele foi muito bem no quali hoje. E eu vou pensar no campeonato.
Pensando nos que vem atrás aqui de você, como que faz para administrar?
Tem o Marçal atrás, né? Então tem que tomar cuidado. E ele tá na frente no campeonato, então se eu conseguir descontar ponto dele é bom.
Aí sim. É uma disputa limpa, sabe, né? Isso é bom.
Vamos pra cima.
Com você aí, Luke.
We heard there from Werner Neugbauer, second on the grid, also a very competitive driver. Actually, he has won the first round of the Endurance Challenge Championship that we just mentioned it. We saw here Daniel Pires, CEO of Porsche Cup Brazil, walking through the grid there, but an interesting moment actually for Werner Neubauer, racing alongside Ricardo Zonta, has won the 300 kilometers race of Interlagos and carries this good momentum also for the third round of the sprint challenge, the sprint championship, sorry. That is, of course, a different format, different championship standing, but same car. So it's a good situation for Werner and a good grid position. Let's hear from Renato once more.
Você tá planejando? Fala só um pouquinho. Eu sei que não dá para contar tudo, mas dá uma palhinha pra gente.
Com certeza a ideia é tentar ir para frente. Aqui estão os principais adversários também do campeonato. O Nicolas está em segundo com descartes, então é muito importante aí conseguir acompanhar eles aí no início de prova para tentar brigar no final ainda.
Obrigada, Marcel. Boa prova. Luke?
Yeah, we heard from Marcel Miller once more, highlighting the discarded results. So Nicolas Costa is second in the standings with the discarded results considered. Of course, we have to wait and see until the final round of the sprint championship to check how the situation is for the main drivers and the title protagonists. But Marcel Miller highlighting already this situation and always thinking about the championship overall. That's the same situation for Werner Neubauer as well. So we see that these guys, they have to be very intelligent but aggressive as well, because if they leave a gap there, their competitors will benefit. So it will be very nice to see this race start, Sergio, and the build up to the race is quite good, because we see how important this round is, thinking about the championship since we reached the halfway of this 2023 season.
Yes, the halfway mark is always important. Of course, we can see things turning around. We've seen actually situations turning around for the drivers, but it's always good to start well. There we see Franco, we saw the car from Franco Giafone.
A gente está no meio da temporada, né? Agora corrida 5 e 6. Começamos o ano no passo certo, né? Chegando na frente, vencendo corridas, e agora é manter. Hoje, infelizmente, cometemos um erro no Qualify 2 aí que nos custou bastante, mas vamos lá, tentar recuperar o máximo, ter alguns pontos de vantagem no campeonato, procurar manter o máximo que eu consigo, minimizar a perda, né, de largar em sétimo hoje, e amanhã também tem inversão de grid, então às vezes uma coisa não dá certo no dia, pode inverter amanhã e largar na frente. Então vamos ver o ritmo de corrida que nós temos, procurar fazer o melhor trabalho possível amanhã, uma prova ainda melhor.
Miguel, a gente está vendo que a temperatura está absolutamente diferente do período da manhã. Queria que tecnicamente você contasse que tipo de ajustes vocês tiveram que fazer, você fez no seu carro, por exemplo, para aguentar a corrida agora.
Bom, a Goiânia é uma pista muito abrasiva, que tem um desgaste excessivo de pneus, e o ritmo do carro, o ritmo de volta durante uma prova, ele cai muito. Então, o carro que tiver com o setup mais equalizado vai ter menos desgaste dos pneus e, consequentemente, vai conseguir manter um tempo de volta mais estável. Então, nós nas corridas sempre temos um ritmo muito constante. Eu espero que hoje possa ser igual, e do meio do final da prova aí conseguimos, os outros competidores começam a perder um pouco de ritmo, a gente consiga manter aí e galgar algumas posições para frente.
Boa. Obrigada, Miguel. Eles dão umas voltinhas em mim, não respondem muito diretamente, né, Luque Monteiro? Mas tá tudo, faz parte do jogo, tá tudo certo. E é isso, né, Miguel Paludo, desde que eu entrei aqui, se tem uma palavra que eu consigo definir o Miguel, é constância.
Yeah, we heard that from Miguel Paludo. He talked about the difficult qualifying session that he had today that puts him 7th on the grid. And of course, he expects a better result now in the first race, and also focusing on race 2 tomorrow. So a good result today will be important for the weekend overall, obviously. And he was talking about how important the tire management is, especially in such a hot city like Goiânia. Even though we have to consider that it's not that hot today, if we consider obviously the city standards. But anyway, the tire degradation is always an issue. And even though air temperature isn't that high, the sun is very strong at Goiânia. We see that we have no clouds. That is a tradition already in the Ayrton Senna International Circuit. And of course, the asphalt temperature, the track temperature is an issue. So Paludo was highlighting this aspect of the race as well, Sergio.
Yes, we just saw Rodrigo Melo arriving there. He arrived late. on the track to start the race, but always good. Remembering Nicolas Costa is pole position, Werner Neugebauer in second, and Lucas Salles and Marcel Miller. This is the fifth race of the season. Is going to be the fifth race of the season, the first race of the third round of the Porsche Cup Sprint Championship in Brazil. We are watching here in our YouTube channel. You can follow all the previous races here as well. They are all there on our YouTube channel, so you can follow that. Carlos, one of the challenge aspects of Goiânia, I would say, is that turn one to the right at the end of this straight is always a challenge moment for the drivers.
Yeah, no doubt about that, especially right after restart, because all of the guys, they tend to be very aggressive in order to jump and gain positions right after the green flag. So with a rolling start, it will be very interesting to see how they reach the apex of the turn one, as you said, the right-hander there, and a high-speed one. This clockwise circuit is quite a high-speed one. Actually, we even have the sort of oval layout, the outer rim of this Goiânia track that is not being used this weekend. We have the regular layout, but even the regular one is quite fast. So it's always very tricky there because with such a big grid, we have more than 20 cars. Maybe something can happen, touches and so on, especially in the midfield. The middle of the pack is always a difficult place to be in a restart. And of course, we can expect interesting things in that spot specifically, but it will be, especially for Nicolas Costa, the pole seater, an interesting challenge because you have to be aggressive in order to take the inside line there. So you hit the apex right close to the, quite close actually to the curb there, and then you protect yourself from the attacks. But if you don't have such a good jump, then the situation gets very, very difficult, Sergio.
Yes, that's very, very well said, Carlos, about how hard it is. This circuit it's not unusual to have safety cars here, so that's always a possibility. Of course, race today, in a way, is, I would say, we expect it to be a little bit less eventful than tomorrow's race when there is the inversion of the grid. But anyway, it's a very interesting race. It's a very interesting moment to watch this first race. We're talking about Alceu Feldman, who is going to start in the sixth position. He is second in this championship if you don't consider the points discarded. So that's a driver also that will be paying attention, Carlos. And we have to think about the battle for the sports class and the rookie class. In the sports class I mentioned, it will be a great opportunity for Lucas Salles, but I wonder, Carlos, how he's going to fare among the other drivers, the Carrera Cup drivers, after they start the race. We'll come back out right after this clip here. Yeah, San Carlos, there we are back with images from Goiânia. What would you say, how do you expect Lucas Salles, what would be the ideal situation for him to behave? Let's put it this way, being third among, he's pretty much among all the Carrera Cup drivers, so he's in a tough spot there. That at the same time is very good for him, but it's challenging as well.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation because he has to benefit from his track position advantage compared to the class rivals, the pole seater of the sport class division of the main Carrera Cup championship. But he has to be aggressive and he has to focus on his lap times. It's quite difficult because in a way you don't have to compete with the guys from the main Carrera class, but if you open way to the theoretically more skilled competitors, you may lose time and then your competitors of the sport class may get close. So he has to focus on lap times, I would say, and use the main Carrera Cup drivers as reference, especially the ones ahead, Werner Neugebauer and Nicolas Costa. And it's interesting to see. I agree. Lucas Salles' situation is one of the highlights prior to this race one of Goiânia, because he's a very fast driver. He has been very competitive compared to the main Carrera drivers, but we see that sometimes some incidents happen around him, so he has to focus on having a clean race as well, because the objective is winning his class. Let's hear from Renata Diniz once more. Yeah, she is just informing that she will be interviewing the drivers throughout these two races that we have this Saturday. First, the Carrera Cup 1, and then the Sprint Challenge 1. Sergio.
Yes, if you're joining us now, we are at the Ayrton Senna International Circuit in the city of Goiânia as we follow some of the drivers. This challenge circuit located just 200 kilometers
em 4 baterias, bem disputado como sempre foi, né?
É uma categoria extremamente competitiva.
Então tá tudo embolado, isso é ótimo para o campeonato.
Isso é legal para quem está competindo aqui, também para quem está assistindo em casa, então promete ser um campeonato muito disputado até o final. Estamos chegando aí para a terceira etapa, onde já chegamos na metade do campeonato. Então agora a gente já começa a não pensar só em corridas, mas também em pontuação de campeonato. Com o descarte, nós estamos em primeiro, ou empatado em primeiro, então agora a gente começa já a fazer uns cálculos e manter uma estratégia acima das corridas.
A gente vê a competitividade de como é que é grande, não só em resultados de corrida, mas também nas classificações, sempre muito próximas, tanto na Endurance quanto na Sprint. Então não é surpresa nenhuma a competitividade aí.
Um ponto na frente do terceiro, um ponto na frente do quarto e um ponto atrás do primeiro. Então tá tudo embolado. Isso é ótimo para o campeonato, é o que o evento procura, a Porsche procura fazer.
Essa liderança até a metade do campeonato, com certeza uma responsabilidade. Poder a partir de agora também acontecer ainda, mas com certeza o começo de campeonato vai vir aí.
Bom, o segredo é ficar na frente dele. Mas a gente está feliz aí com o desempenho até aqui. Ainda temos o recorde da pista, então se for quebrado, espero que seja por mim. Mas vamos fazer de tudo aí para tentar brigar por essa pole position, por vitórias, porque por mais que estamos na metade do campeonato, ainda tem mais 4 etapas contando com a de hoje.
O segredo a gente não sabe ainda, né? Porque ele é campeão um monte de vezes aí, eu fui campeão uma vez só. Então esse segredo aí não é fácil, ninguém conseguiu ainda. O Paludo acho que é o maior campeão da categoria, então não vai ser fácil. Ele tem tarimba, já teve ali em primeiro, então ele sabe como administrar. Não vai ser fácil, mas tem 3 pilotos aí brigando, eu acho que vai ser... Tá embaralhado o jogo, acho que não tá na mão do Paludo, mas também não tá fácil de passar ele, tá? O jogo vai ser duro.
O segredo é andar muito rápido, classificar bem e principalmente fazer a primeira curva na frente, esse é o segredo.
Pode ser um segredo, e eu ficar na frente deles. Esse com certeza é um objetivo, é uma categoria extremamente competitiva. A gente vem em disputas aí bem competitivas durante o ano. E com certeza a gente está um mirando o outro aí e vai continuar até a última etapa.
Yeah, once more that video with the 4 title protagonists, Miguel Paludo, also Feldman, also Nicolas Costa and Marcel Miller. I already translated the main aspects of the interviews, but something that I missed was the information about the track record. Previously, it was held by Marcel Miller. He said that he had the record and he hoped to break his own record, but it happened with Nicolas Costa. So Marcel lost this benchmark at Goiânia. Sergio.
Yes, as the car starts to roll, so we are going to have the race now. Nicolas Costa, his Porsche there is beautiful 999 number for him. Behind him is Lucas Salles, who is starting third. So soon we will have the race here. This is the 5th race of the 2023 championship. As we see the starting grid, Nicolas Costa alongside Werner Neugebauer on the first row. Then right behind them, there will be Lucas Salles and Marcel Miller. Marcel Miller looking forward to advance to the championship leadership. Rodrigo Melo, great effort, 5th best time, alongside Alceu Feldman, then Miguel Paludo and Franco Giafone on the 4th row. Behind them we have in 9th Nelson Monteiro and then Lineu Pires, Peter Ferter and Giorgio Frangulis who leads the sports class championship. We start 5th among his peers. Eduardo Menossi and Francisco Horta are on the 7th row. Then Roman Zinkiewicz and Ricardo Montanari, both from the sport class. Then Nelson Marcondes and Gustavo Farah, pole position for the rookie class. Great effort by Gustavo Farah. He's been getting better and better in Porsche Cup Brazil. Rajan Mascarello and João Barbosa are behind them. Then we have Edu Guedes and Eyman Darwich, and Nasser Abultaif and Piero Cifali, and rounding the top 26 drivers, the 26 drivers who are competing, Bruno Campos and Paulo Souza. These are the 26 drivers who will be competing. Carlos, so we are ready to go, and we are ready. I'm looking forward for that first turn to the left in this Ayrton Senna International Series.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about how important this right-hander turn 1 is. And nice grid as a whole, because of course we have the guys ahead of the pack, Nicolas Costa, Werner Neugbauer. We talked about Lucas Salles, that is the pole sitter of the sport class, but also in the midfield, and considering some drivers that are out of place, we can expect something interesting. For example, Rajan Mascarello, the reigning champion of the Sprint Challenge Championship, now promoted to Porsche Carrera Cup in the sport class, had a poor qualifying session due to a puncture, so we can expect a good recovery for him. So an action-packed race 1, Sergio.
Yeah, so let's start the race. We have Nicolas Costa will be on your left side. On your right side is Werner Neugebauer. The red lights are on. We're ready to start. And it's green. Nicolas on your left side, very aggressive. Marcel Miller, number 544. He's not able to advance. Great effort by number 29 there of Rodrigo Melo. Right behind him is Miguel Paludo, side by side on the first turn. We see Nicolas Costa and Werner Neugebauer with Marcel Miller behind Neugebauer. Great work by Nicolas Costa. He stays ahead. Werner Neugebauer is second with Marcel Miller in third. No changes in the first 2 positions, but number 3 in the grid, Lucas Salles, falls to 4th position there, while we see the battle between Alceu Feldman and Miguel Paludo. Alceu Feldman is the green Porsche, he's of the red Porsche of Miguel Paludo, who loses yet another position. Not a good start for Miguel Paludo, but the leader is Nicolas Costa, Werner Neugebauer, and then Marcel Miller, the 3rd place. Very clean start, Carlos Costa.
Yeah, clean start, but a very intense one, especially ahead of the pack. We had Werner Neugebauer overtaking Lucas Salles, which was something that we, given the fact that Werner is a more experienced and skilled driver. Anyway, good start for Lucas, because he stays ahead of the pack and maintains his advantage considering the class rivals. And just behind we had a very aggressive defensive maneuver there by Alceu Feldman, who closed the door to avoid Miguel Paludo's overtake, and then Miguel had to slow down and lost 1 spot there. So it was, in my view, one of the most important fights or battles right after the race starts. So we see that Peter Ferter is currently 7th ahead of Miguel Paludo.
Yeah, excellent work by Peter Ferter. We see the battle there a little bit behind. Miguel Paludo is 8th. Franco Giafone fell to 9th position. He also lost 1 position in this battle between Alceu Feldman and Miguel Paludo. Both him and Miguel Paludo lost 1 position actually for Peter Ferter, who got 4 positions. Giorgio Frangulis, great start for him, who leads the sports class championship. He's 10th overall. Nelson Monteiro fell to 11th, and Lineu Pires to 12th. So this is a situation race. Is scheduled for 25 minutes plus 1 lap. As we see again the highlights for Miguel Paludo, who so far is not having a good weekend. Or the opposite of Nicolas Costa, who is having a great weekend so far, and is looking forward to advance in the championship standings, already opening a little bit of a gap between him and second place Werner Neugebauer, Carlos.
Yeah, exactly. And Marcel Miller is actually getting closer and closer to Werner Neugebauer, so we can expect an attack there as we see the drivers hitting the apex of turn 1, the right-hander that we have been talking about. And just thinking about Miguel Paludo's weekend, he has to think step by step. Of course, he knows what to do. He's a very experienced driver, 7-time champion of the series, tied with Constantino Jr. as the driver with most race wins in this championship's history. But anyway, difficult weekend so far, as we have been talking about. Difficult qualifying session, only 7th on the grid, had his door closed by Alceu Feldman, and as a consequence, Peter Fetter was able to overtake, but he has to be calm. Of course, overtake as many cars as possible, especially Fetter, in order to attack Feldman. Paludo is still the championship leader, and his main title rival is just 2 spots ahead. And if he's able to mark, if we can say so, also Feldman in this first race, and then get a good result in race 2, it will be good for Paludo. He's chasing another victory in this circuit, and of course, thinking about the cars and the drivers in this current grid, he's the guy with most wins to his name at Goiânia. 3 triumphs in this international Ayrton Senna circuit so far.
We see Porsche number 29 of Rodrigo Melo. He is in 5th. There is a group of cars behind him, as we see Marcel Miller going for 2nd position. Marcel Miller, P2 at the Ayrton Senna International Circuit. The question now, Carlos, is if Marcel Miller, with over 20 minutes to go, will be able to get close to Nicolas Costa to fight for the 1st position, because right now situation doesn't look that good for Werner Neugebauer in the battle for the 2nd position. Of course, he's in a very good situation in 3rd, ahead of Lucas Salles. And Lucas Salles, Carlos, even though he didn't have the best start that he hoped to, on the track, it's Peter Fetter, who is right ahead of Miguel Paludo. There might have been some contact there. Miguel Paludo, that might end of the race for Miguel Paludo. Doesn't look good, Carlos. Very, very slow. If he has a punctured tire there, I would say it's the end of the race for him.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Such an expectation for Paludo, who arrived to Goiânia with the expectation to get 1 more race win and be the guy with most race wins alone actually in this series. He's tied with Constantino Jr., as I said, and it seems that it was due to a touch with Peter Fetter, as you said, but we have to wait and see the replay. And just talking about Marcel Miller's overtaking maneuver there, it seemed unavoidable for Werner Neugebauer, because it seems Miller has a better pace, even though Neugebauer isn't letting Miller go. So maybe we can see another fight between the 2 of them there.
Yeah, Werner Neugebauer is right behind Marcel Miller. My impression was that was going to be able to open a gap to Werner Neugebauer, but so far that didn't happen as Miguel Paludo crossed to the pit lane. Problems also with Roman Zinkiewicz. Roman Zinkiewicz was in 10th place. He spins yet another car. Would that be Nelson? No, it's not Nelson Monteiro. Neil Pires, maybe. Let's see what happened there. Wow, that's Roman Zinkiewicz. And the other car, I think, might have been in the aftermath, Carlos, of the spin by Roman Zinkiewicz.
I think so. I didn't identify the car, but I was thinking here, Sergio, we had a very clean start, and then all of a sudden, 2 incidents, one right after the other, as we see the cars going wide there. A crash for Roman Zinkiewicz, of course, most likely a retirement of the car, and there,
that's Ricardo Fontanari.
Exactly.
That's Ricardo Fontanari.
And I think it was alone, actually. He lost the braking spot there, and the back end of the car went wide.
Battle for 2nd position, Marcel Miller. Marcel Miller is ahead of...
Uma baita movimentação aqui. Acabei de ver o quadriciclo parando no box do Miguel, pegando um pneu novo e levando lá para a área de apoio. Correria.
Yeah, she's reporting that they got a new tire to replace the punctured one of Miguel Paludo's car in the area that they do the repairs of the cars there. So let's see if Miguel Paludo will be able to rejoin the race.
Yeah, it would be important, Carlos, if other guys, other drivers don't finish the race. There he is, Miguel Paludo, going back to the track because, at least at this point, he has no chance at all of getting any good result. But of course, he's a fighter and he wants to get better positions. He might get a position from one driver or other that have a problem. Let's see if we find out what happened. He was already behind at this point. Apparently, it was unrelated to the Peter Ferter spin, Carlos, because Miguel Paludo had already lost a few spots, unless they had touched before, and that caused the Miguel Paludo tire puncture. But at that moment, they were very separated.
Yeah, maybe another incident between both of them, but as you said, at least considering the replay that we just saw, there's no relation between the two incidents. Peter Ferter spun and Paludo already had an issue, and as you pointed, he was a couple of spots behind, so maybe the punctures happened prior actually to the spin of Peter Ferter. That's a shame because Paludo is in a difficult situation, but as you said, one can never give up because if there's a multiple retirement of cars, then he might snatch one or another point there.
Yeah, Rodrigo Melo right now is in the 5th position. He's trying to get close to Lucas Salles, you see there. It's 4th and 5th place. These are 2nd and 3rd. Lucas Salles having a great race so far. He's first in the sport class. Then we have Franco Giaffoni and Giorgio Frangulis in third. Right now, it's working well for Lucas Salles, Carlos, in the battle for the sport championship. Of course, he's not scoring enough points to get ahead of Giorgio Frangulis, but he's diminishing the gap between them in the points. So that's always good for the driver. That's what he's looking forward. We have still many races. I see Gustavo Farah there working with the Porsche number 44.
Yeah, battling.
Gustavo Farah. It was, who was that, Carlos? I lost here.
Yeah, João Barbosa and Gustavo
Farah. Gustavo Farah. It's 84. I said 44 is 84. Yeah, that's Gustavo Farah.
And the 1-2-1 of Barbosa.
Yeah, because sometimes I've seen him racing with number 44. But there, the battle, João Barbosa is ahead of this group. João Barbosa is 15th, then Gustavo Farah is 16th, and then we have Francisco Horta right behind them.
Yeah, nice train of cars there. If they lose time, maybe there's a room for the guys right behind to catch up as well. And you were talking about Lucas Salles. So far, so good for him. As you said, the focus has to be in diminishing the lead that Jorge Sangulis has so far. Good advantage in terms of championship standings. And thinking about Frangulis, the focus is damage contention because he had a quite difficult qualifying session and right now is only 3rd in the class. Of course, 3rd is a good result, but we are talking about the class leader, so I believe that he's aiming for a better result. Right behind Franco Giaffoni, the reigning sport class champion in Porsche Cup Brazil. So we tend to have an interesting fight between the two of them there. 1.5 seconds of gap between Giaffoni and Jorge Sangulis. They are overall 7th and 8th.
Yeah, and at this point, Carlos, we see already Marcel Miller opening a significant gap to 3rd place Werner Neugebauer. So at this point, I would say we'll have to see if Marcel Miller is going to be able to get close to Nicolas Costa. Let's lap around. Nicolas Costa got 124.569. Marcel Miller 124.387. So he was able to diminish the gap. Of course, we know consistency is the key of the game in motorsports, and we have to see if this difference stays consistent. I mean, if Marcel Miller consistently is able to diminish this gap, or if it just was something that happened in the last lap. While we see here Lucas Salles with Rodrigo Melo right behind him, and then behind Rodrigo Melo we have the Porsche number 1 of Alceu Feldman.
Yeah, that's it. But last lap, thinking about Costa, Miller, and Neugbauer. Profitable situation for Marçal in two ways because he was actually being followed quite uh, closely by Werner Neugbauer. He was able to open a bit of a gap as we see the replay of the restart. And now, as you said, consistency is key to creating a situation in which Miller can attack Costa. I believe that Costa is managing his lead in this moment. Also, thinking about tire management, as we see that it was a very intense fight ahead of turn one, Sergio.
Yeah, great camera from inside Nicolas Costa's car. At his side, we see Werner Neugebauer. It was a great effort by Werner Neugebauer, but not enough. Of course, Nicolas Costa had the advantage of the turning being to the right side, so that was enough for him to keep first position. So that was good enough for him. Right now, last lap, Marcel Miller was a little bit slower, but the difference is still less than 1 second from first to second place in this race. There we have another battle, Carlos Paulo Souza do Guedes and Bruno Campos. This is the battle for 18th position.
Yeah, nice fight there with interesting protagonists thinking also about the championship standings. For example, when we talk about Edu Guedes, we are mentioning the leader of the rookie class of the Carrera Cup Championship. And it's an interesting situation because he has one of his class rivals, actually two of them, Bruno Campos and Paulo Souza, quite close. So a multiple fight there as we see the gaps between Costa, Miller, and Neugbauer in this real-time presentation. So Miller is getting close and close and closer.
Yeah, we saw before Miguel Paludo got the best time. Too bad for him, he's dead last in 26th place. But anyway, that was something that he was able to accomplish changing the tires. Nicolas Costa is still the leader. Last time around, Marcel Miller was a little bit faster. We have a little bit under 10 minutes to go plus one lap, so there is still enough time for Marcel Miller to bridge this gap and maybe, who knows, fight for the first position. And Rodrigo Melo is less than half a second behind Lucas Salles in the battle for the fourth position. So Rodrigo Melo, we mentioned Carlos during qualifying, had a great effort. He was really good during qualifying, and right now he's in fifth. So it's been a great race for him. That usually we don't see him that much ahead. So in the championship, Rodrigo Melo is not in a very good situation. He's in the 12th position. He hadn't had a great season so far, so that will be definitely very good to have a top 5 to give him a moral boost, for the second half of the championship.
Yeah, and he definitely needs this moral boost, as you said. Indeed, a difficult start of season for Rodrigo Melo, a driver that is improving year by year. Now racing in the main Carrera Cup class, but he had a difficult start of season, with two poor rounds, both at Interlagos and Velocitar, but now bouncing back to his standard performances, fighting in the top of the pack there, top 5 and so on. Actually, this circuit is very good for him. He had his pole position last year at Goiânia, so he was confident prior to the qualifying session, was fastest in one of the sessions, and then aimed for a top 5 grid position for race 1, and that's exactly what he did. So far, a good weekend, and as you said, a moral boost for Rodrigo Melo as we see the lap times of the top 3 there. Costa, Miller, and Neugbauer, and so far, so good for Costa in terms of managing his lead. You see that now that Miller has got closer and closer and closer, he started to clock lap times very similar to Miller's.
This is a good battle there. We see Nelson Marcondes in the Porsche 199, Eamon Darwich number 555, and right behind him we have the number 85 of Eduardo Menossi. So this is a battle there, a very interesting battle, winning from the 11th position. That's Mandaric. Nelson Monteiro is able to open a little bit of a gap to these two drivers, Nelson Marcondes, and then we have Raijan Mascarello behind him. Look at Raijan Mascarello coming there. Carlos with the number 800, Porsche number 800, try to advance. He's getting really close to Edu Menossi and Mandaric.
Yeah, and we could expect that from Raijan Mascarello, as I said before, the reigning champion of the Sprint Challenge Championship, now promoted to the main Carrera Cup Championship. So racing for the first time this year with the Porsche 992, the new cars that are competing in the main championship in Porsche Cup Brazil. We have the older cars being used in the Sprint Challenge Championship, the 991-2. They are quite similar in terms of horsepower, 460 horsepower for the newer cars and 450 for the older cars. But anyway, in terms of technology, braking, transmission and so on, the new car is quite faster. So it's a challenge. And he actually got a puncture. He had a puncture in one of his tires in the qualifying session. So definitely out of position compared to his potential in terms of grid slot, but a good recovery race as we see an intense fight there. And a good battle for position, a defensive maneuver that is quite good from Mandaric, aggressive driver, but knows also how to defend his position.
Yeah, it's battle for P12. Behind Mandaric is Eduardo Menossi, and right behind them again it's Raijan Mascarello. Raijan Mascarello just looking ahead of him, waiting to see what's going to happen, and someone lost the track there. Lost a few position. Was it number one? No. Yes, that's number one of Alceu Feldman. Not good for Alceu Feldman. He was running 6. Let's see what happened to Alceu Feldman in the battle with Rodrigo Melo. Maybe he tried too hard, Carlos. He was trying to overtake Rodrigo Melo. Maybe he went too much there, too strong. Oh, there was a touch between these two. And then anyway, number one of Alceu Feldman went off track. Rodrigo Melo was able to stay in the 5th position.
Yeah, quite tight left-hander there. As you said, Alceu Feldman was trying to overtake Rodrigo Melo, but he forgot to brake, to say the least, because he missed the braking point there and then went wide. Melo was able to recover his position, and a driving mistake there from Alceu Feldman. Actually, he loses a bit of ground, actually a lot of ground, as we see in the time, the screen actually to the left. And the good situation for him is that Paludo is also struggling this week in this race. So in terms of championship points, it's not that bad, but of course he loses the opportunity to open actually diminish the gap. Ooh, quite close there. It was Eduardo Menossi, I think.
Exactly. He pretty much in a similar situation, maybe not in the same spot as we had with Alceu Feldman and Rodrigo Melo. He was trying to overtake Mandaric, but he went too far there. He was not able to recuperate, and now he spun and he lost many positions. So it was not good for him. As Nicolas Costa right now cruises towards the end of the race, he's being able to keep over a half a second ahead of Marcel Miller's 2nd place. Werner Neugebauer is way behind in 3rd place. He's already over 3 seconds behind Marcel Miller. So no hopes for Werner Neugebauer at this point, unless the drivers ahead of him have a problem. With Lucas Salles a great 4th place and Rodrigo Melo in 5th. These are all pretty much separated, Carlos, by reasonable differences there. So we don't expect to see, unless we have any major problem, a battle among the top 5 for position. And look, end of the race for Alceu Feldman.
That's a big shame. As I said, he loses the opportunity to diminish the points gap to Miguel Paludo. Actually, considering the current gap between them, let me double check here, but they are quite close in terms of championship standings. Yes, Paludo has 91 points and Feldman 83 points. With Paludo's problem, Alceu Feldman could have been the leader.
A gente não queria encontrar com ele tão cedo aqui no box, obviamente que não, né? Alceu Feldman. E aí, conta pra gente o que aconteceu ali.
Cara, eu achei o ritmo agora. Tava bem mais rápido que os outros. Coloquei por dentro. O Melo deu uma puxadinha, deu uma triscada na roda. e quebrou minha suspensão.
Mas amanhã tem mais. Tem que pensar na corrida de amanhã, né? Corridas são corridas.
Corridas são corridas, vamos largar de último.
Recuperação, ó, senhor.
Valeu, obrigado.
Obrigada, Luque.
Oh man. We see there, before we translate, as we see there the battle, number 87, Nelson Monteiro there was a touch. This is a very tight battle going on there. Look, the very tight battle. Let me see. And this is for 7th position, Carlos. So this is a battle among the top 10 drivers. But go ahead, Carlos.
No, nice battle there, but that's a shame for Alceu Feldman. He explained that even though the touch with Rodrigo Melo wasn't that violent, but it was enough to break the suspension. So he had to retire the car, and now we'll start last in tomorrow's race. So that's a big shame for Alceu Feldman. But anyway, as he and Renata Diniz, our pit reporter, said, racing is like that, so that's part of the business, and he will try to recuperate tomorrow as we see the 3-car fight there, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, the green Porsche was Lineu Pires, and also in the battle we had Nelson Marcondes. So that was the battle going on there. Yeah, I laughed at Carlos because he said, Renata said, races are races, we still have tomorrow. He said, yes, races are races, we'll start last. So he was conformed to that.
Yeah, he cannot change his fate now that he has retired the car, and that's a shame because it was indeed a slight touch there. But anyway, bad luck for Alceu Feldman, as we see that Miller is getting close. No, that's not Miller and Nicolas Costa. It's actually Franco Giaffoni and Rodrigo Melo, I think.
Yeah, great effort by Franco Giaffoni. Remembering Franco Giaffoni is from the sport class. Rodrigo Melo is the main Carrera Cup class, and Franco Giaffoni, I would say maybe better tire management, Carlos, because at the end of the race, with 2 laps now to be over, we clearly see Franco Giaffoni faster than Rodrigo Melo, and he is able to overtake now on the outside. Rodrigo Melo makes a nice defensive move, and he stays ahead of Franco Giaffoni, but this is not over yet, Carlos.
Not at all, not at all. And yeah, there we see the attack, but interesting defensive maneuver there by Rodrigo Melo. And that's nice to see because a fight between drivers of different classes. Rodrigo Melo of the main Carrera Cup class and Franco Giaffoni, the reigning sport class champion, trying to defend his title. Of course, Lucas Salles is ahead of the pack, but anyway, they are certainly having a little bit of a fun there with that particular fight, Sergio.
Yes, last lap at the Ayrton Senna International Circuit. Nicolas Costa is coming for his 2nd victory this season, number 999. Great work by Nicolas Costa. Finally, Marcel Miller got right behind him, but that's not going to be enough. Nicolas Costa is going to win this race, and it will be great for him to get back to the battle for the championship, considering the top 2 drivers in the standings got problems. They are finishing last, and the one before the last, and Nicolas Costa, there he comes. Marcel Miller, a last effort to overtake Nicolas Costa, but we are going to have Nicolas Costa as the winner, Carlos. I believe at least we're having a little bit of an image problem there, but Nicolas Costa gets the checkered flag and wins the first race in Goiânia, first race of the 3rd round of Porsche Cup C6 Bank MasterCard Sprint Championship. We are going still to have, stay tuned here, we're still going to have the Sprint Challenge race, the first Sprint Challenge race for the weekend, as tomorrow we'll have the 2nd race for both Carrera Cup and the Sprint Challenge.
Yeah, but what a race win there by Nicolas Costa, as we see that João Barbosa also wins alongside Lucas Salles. So the 3 class winners, the main one that we see celebrating there with his door open already. And with the left arm out of the car. He deserves the celebration. A very difficult race actually for Nicolas Costa, because even though he was the leader in the beginning of the race due to the pole position he got earlier today in the qualifying session, he was under attack in the very first moment of the race, and then till the very end of the race. In the restart, Werner Neugebauer was side by side with him ahead of the right-hander of the turn 1 at Goiânia. He was able to defend his position. It was a very intense attack there by Neugebauer. Then he opened a bit of a gap to Neugebauer, but Marcel Miller overtook Neugebauer and was able to charge until the end of the race. So he was actually under pressure until the checkered flag, as we saw, that Miller was quite close to him, and he was able to manage his lead, but Miller was getting closer and closer and closer. I think that it was a gap of something around half of a second, which is not that much. So difficult race win for Nicolas Costa, and we have to praise his driving ability after this race won here at Goiânia. And we see there João Barbosa celebrating his race win in the rookie class. It was actually an action-packed race in the rookie class as well. Barbosa had to battle with Gustavo Farah and other class rivals, and once more we have to praise Lucas Salles. He was able to get a very good grid position in the middle of the pack with the main Carrera Cup drivers, and did what he had to do. A clean race, avoiding contacts. He had some misfortunes in the previous rounds, but today a perfect drive for Lucas Salles, and that's why he gets the race win. That was built from the qualifying session, as we see the onboard camera of Nicolas Costa.
Yeah, and his main adversary in the battle of the championship, Giorgio Frangulis, got 5th in the sports class after all. We saw that great battle happening between the drivers, Nelson Monteiro, Neo Pires, and Giorgio Frangulis. Nelson Monteiro ended up having the best of it with Neo Pires, Giorgio Frangulis, and then Nelson Marcondes, who was also in that battle. So these are some interesting battles that happened during this race as Nicolas Costa commemorates his 2nd victory in the Porsche Cup Sprint Championship. He who started this year competing for the championship. He's already marking his name with 2 victories so far in 5 races this season, showing that he's definitely a title contender, even though he didn't have a great weekend in the 2nd round at Velocitar. But yeah, he's commemorating. Congratulations to Nicolas Costa.
And he deserves the celebration. Also important to mention, Sergio, how important it is for him bouncing back from a difficult round at Velocitar. He had never raced at Velocitar, so the 2nd event of the Sprint Championship of Porsche Carrera Cup was quite difficult for Nicolas. He had a very good season opener round at Interlagos. We have also to remember that he's making his debut in the Sprint Championship of Porsche Brazil. He's a former endurance-only racer in Porsche Cup, but adapting perfectly to the sprint races. And of course, we have also to praise Salles and João Barbosa, deserving race win for both of them, and a very good race one. We had a clean race start, but throughout the whole pack, a lot of action. Some retirements, important ones actually, especially Alceu Feldman's, Miguel Paludo with an issue in the beginning of the race as well. So we can expect a good championship situation right after this race 1. And of course, anxiety for race 2 tomorrow as well, because Costa and Neugebauer, they are bagging important points in terms of fighting for the championship. Neugebauer, no, Miller actually, which got 2nd and was 3rd in the championship standings. Let's hear.
Muito feliz aí, depois do probleminha mecânico que a gente teve no Velocitar, acabou custando alguns pontos pra gente, mas o ritmo sempre teve aí. O crucial é que a gente sabia que era largada, foi muito perto ali, o Inverno a gente chegou a se tocar, mas tudo dentro da regra. Tentei imprimir um ritmo bom aí, mas sem torrar muito os pneus, controlando a distância ali pro Marçal. O carro estava ótimo, mérito aí da equipe.
que, enfim, fez tudo o que podia.
Ele tentou muito, hein?
Tentou muito, mas eu estava controlando ali de uma certa forma. Eu acho que eu tinha 2 décimos no banco, se precisasse acelerar um pouquinho mais, que não é muita coisa. Vi que ele estava tentando bastante, mas de qualquer maneira, muito feliz com a vitória. Goiânia é um lugar muito especial para mim e estar aqui competitivo, ganhando corrida, fazendo pole position é um sonho.
Parabéns.
Obrigadão.
Vai pro pódio agora. Valeu, Luque.
Yeah, nice chat there with Nicolas Costa. He was actually remembering how difficult the Velocita round was. He had a mechanical problem back then in the Mogi Guaçu city in the inner part of São Paulo state, but now bouncing back to his driving standards, a very good racer. We talked about the management of his lead throughout the race, and he said that he had 1/10, maybe 2/10. Of course, if he needed to push in order to avoid Marcel Miller's overtaking maneuver, but anyway, he was able to win and celebrating in such a special place for him that is Goiânia. So hats off to Nicolas Costa. Definitely he deserves, Sergio.
There we see the podium, Rodrigo Melo 5th, then Lucas Salles 4th. In 3rd, we had Werner Neugebauer. Marcel Miller right now is waving to the crowd. And 1st place is number 1 in this race, Nicolas Costa. Very happy fellow indeed. Well deserved a victory for Nicolas Costa. He was fastest during qualifying, had a great start of the race, and he was able to get the win. So nice work for him. Now they're able to commemorate. Racing resumes tomorrow. So for Carrera Cup, of course, we still have the sprint challenge here, but for these drivers of Carrera Cup, now it's time to relax and rest to be prepared for the race on Sunday.
Yeah, and the expectation for the sprint challenge race is quite good as well, because the grid was interesting for Carrera Cup, but it is also for the sprint challenge contest that we will have right after this first race of the weekend. 4 races overall between Saturday and Sunday. And thinking about the grid in the sprint challenge, we have Christian Mora ahead of Josimar Jr. and Marcelo Tomazoni. So 3 of the title protagonists in a good grid position there. So we can expect good things, and action-packed race as well for the sprint challenge, as now the guys from the Carrera Cup championship celebrate now the podium for the sport class with Lucas Salles ahead of the pack. Franco Giaffoni 2nd, and then the rest of the...
Yeah, Nelson Monteiro was 3rd, Lineu Pires 4th, and Giorgio Frangulis was 5th in this race. So win for Lucas Salles. He was 4th overall. He started 3rd, and there he well-deservedly commemorates his victory in Goiânia. Already puts him definitely, we don't have the points yet, Carlos, but puts him definitely closer to Giorgio Frangulis in the battle for the sports class championship.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The gap was quite
17
big, actually.
points, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. 57 points to Jorge Strangoulis and 40 points to Lucas Salles. Lucas, as we said, had a difficult kickstart to the season with especially difficult races too, both at Interlagos and Velocita, but now winning in his class.
Aqui, uma informação em
Important
primeiríssima
points
mão.
for him, and let's hear
sorteio
from
acabou de acontecer
Diniz.
aqui com os pilotos da Carrera Cup e amanhã teremos 7 posições invertidas.
Yeah, Renata talking about the grid positions for tomorrow. We have the draw and, of course, the reverse grid, but we have to wait and see the confirmation for tomorrow's initial order. But anyway, we were talking about Lucas Salles and how he diminishes the gap to Jorge Strangoulis in a difficult round, actually, for Jorge Strangoulis, only 5th in his class, as we see now the podium celebrations of the rookie class. João Barbosa winning, Farah 2nd, and then the rest of the drivers. Now, moment for celebration for João Barbosa.
Yeah, Bruno Campos was 3rd, and then we had Paulo Souza in 4th, and Edu Guedes in 5th. So these are the top 5 in the Carrera Cup rookie class that you see there. A great work definitely by João Barbosa. João Barbosa, we see him overtaking Gustavo Farah. We saw this maneuver. It was a very nice maneuver between these two drivers. Right behind them was number 77 of Francisco Horta. And there we have João Barbosa and then Gustavo Farah. Gustavo Farah finished second in the race. So right now, for the next race, Christian Moore, Carlos, is going to be the pole position. He will start alongside Josimar Jr. We soon will have already the cars on the track. There they are already on the track, getting ready for the start of the second race. As we see the championship standings for the Sprint Challenge Championship, Marcelo Tomassoni leads 11 points ahead of Christian Moore, with Antônio Junqueira in third, then Urubatan Jr. and Antonella Bassani. Remembering that Christian Moore starts in first and Marcelo Tomassoni is starting a little bit behind him. So that might be, Carlos, another opportunity for Christian Moore. Marcelo Tomassoni is right there. So let's see what is going to happen in this race.
Yeah, but as you said, a good opportunity for Christian Moore. Actually, a very interesting pole position for him after a difficult start in the qualifying session. He actually had a lockup in the front rear, if I'm not wrong. So I even thought that he had flat spot at that tire. But anyway, he was able to get a good lap time in the final qualifying session, the Super Pole fight, with the top 10 of the whole Sprint Challenge Championship grid amalgamated in order to fight for pole position. And we see now the grid, and Antonella Bassani a little bit behind, Eduardo Taurizano making his debut in the Sprint Challenge Championship, a former Sprint Trophy, the school class, the school category or championship of Porsche Cup Brazil, now being promoted to Porsche Sprint Challenge. And we also have another driver, that is Claudio Simon, a former Sprint Trophy driver that we see to the left there, making his debut this weekend, Sergio.
Yeah, so these are two drivers we are actually going to pay attention. We are also pay attention to Christian Moore, Marcelo Tomassoni, who battle for the championship. Josimar Jr., great effort. Carlos Campos had a performance similar to Lucas Salles in the Carrera Cup, being his from the sport class, and he got the fourth best time overall during qualifying, a very surprising time and very good, very nice for the driver to be fourth overall. And also we are going to follow Antonella Tomassoni, that, as you mentioned, Carlos, didn't have a great effort during qualifying, but she's a strong driver. She proved to be a very aggressive, strong driver, and I expect her to get positions in the field, as well as Antônio Junqueira, who starts 8th, and it's been one of the biggest surprises in this year's championship.
Yeah, definitely a sport class driver, but battling with the overall, the main class drivers, if you can say so. He's third in the championship, 77 points to Junqueira. And of course, quite close to Christian Moore, only 4 points gap between Moore and Junqueira, ahead of the back Tomassoni, as we saw in the championship standing screen. And Junqueira leads the sport class, so it's nice to see how he is performing in his debut season in Porsche Brazil, as we see one more lap behind the safety car, I believe.
Yeah, the lights are out already, the cars are aligned, so actually I'll expect the starting after this lap. Let's see if the safety car, yeah, it goes.
Yeah, that's it.
So we are going to have the start of the race. Christian Moore, Porsche number 3 will be on the left side of your screen when we have green flag. Josimar Jr. will be alongside him with the Porsche number 77. In the second row, Marcelo Tomassoni will be behind Christian Moore on the inside lane, and Carlos Campos will be behind Josimar Jr. on the outside lane. The red lights are on. When they turn off, we will have green. Let's start the race at the Ayrton Senna International Circuit Sprint Challenge. It's green, green, green. Let's start the race. And we have a great start by Christian Moore. He's ahead of the pack. He's way ahead of the pack, so it should be kind of not a big challenge for him. Look at behind them, and great work by Marcelo Tomassoni, I believe, behind Christian Moore. He gets the second position. Antonella Bassani already got maybe 1 or 2 positions. Let's find out. She had a great start there behind. Oh, someone spins behind another spin. What a confusion there. It's the car for Israel Salman. Israel Salman, who had a great
Yeah.
qualifying session. There he is, Israel Salman. Too bad for him. He started 6th overall, but he lost many positions right at the beginning of the race, Carlos. Now he's going back to the track, but way, way behind. Remembering, race is 25 minutes plus 1 lap.
Yeah, that's a shame for Israel Salman actually, because he had a very good qualifying session, second in terms of grid position in his class. Actually, his debut in the sport class division of the Sprint Challenge Championship, he was racing until the Velocitar round in the rookie class, so a promotion, a well-deserved promotion for him in terms of class in this Sprint Challenge Championship. But now an issue there. He spun, but we have to wait and see if there's a replay of the incident, because I don't believe it was just a driving mistake given the way that he spun. So let's wait and see, as Marcelo Tomazzoni is already second and trying to attack Christian Moore, the two title rivals. Whoa, one more.
That's bad. That's bad. Who is that, Carlos? I'm trying to see. Is it Seba Malucelli? Let's double check. This is Christian Moore. Christian Moore leading the race with Marcelo Tomassoni in second. Antonella Bassani advanced from 9th to 6th, Carlos, at the very start of the race. So it was a great work for her. Let's see again what happened at the start with number 3, pole position on the left. Look at Antonio Junqueira, number 16, going on the outside there. Number 14 was Carlos Campos. He's from the sport class. He started 4th. He lost a few positions there. And now we see the image from the top. Oh yeah, Antonio Junqueira on the outside. He found the spot. 3 side by side, Carlos.
Yeah, interesting restart as we see the replay there. I think it was Eduardo Taurissano hitting
Urubatán Jr.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Was it Urubatán? I think it was Urubatán.
It is the dark blue car there, but I think it was Urubatán. Let's double check. But anyway, the car that was retiring there, the driver that was retiring the car was Eduardo Taurissano, as we see once more the incident with Israel Salman. So an eventful start of race, even though we had a clean race start, but right in the first lap, some incidents there we see Eduardo Taurissano.
Wow.
And
he totally lost, Carlos. He totally lost.
It's a quite strong crash actually, and in the aftermath I think that Israel Salman is collected. Let's check once more.
Oh yeah, he was collected here on his right side, no?
Yeah, he struggles a bit in that right-hander, but he was able to maintain his car in the racing line, but was hit in the right, as we see that Eduardo Taurissano is retiring his car. I think there's no chance that he will recover in time to race a little bit more. Of course, he's upset, but apparently it was his fault.
Yes, I agree, unless there was a problem with the car, which is very, very rare in Porsche Cup. He missed something there. It's his first race, Carlos. We have to give him a little bit of a waiver, but of course, not that much, but it's part. He's still learning, and it's not the first driver to do this, so we have to consider that as well.
Yeah, just confirming, Urubatán Jr., Israel Salman, and Eduardo Taurissano, I think all of them, the 3 of them, out of the race.
Christian Moore leads the race with a difference of over a second and a half. Then we have Marcelo Tomassoni and Josimar Jr. Carlos Campos is still 4th, so he was able to keep his starting position, 4th position. Great work by him. He's from the sport class. Battle going on there. It's Antonella Tomassoni over Miguel Mariotti. Great overtake by Antonella Bassani, pardon, not Tomassoni. Antonella Bassani, who goes to 5th place there after overtaking. She's so fast, Carlos. It impresses me. Since the beginning of the season, I don't have this statistic. I don't know if you would have, but I think she was one of the drivers who had most overtakes. Considering, I mean,
Probably.
unless you consider driver who starts from dead last in the second
Yeah.
race, who is a top driver, of course, he will overtake lots of drivers. But quality overtakes, I think she has the most. It's impressive.
Yeah, a very fast driver, aggressive. Of course, we are talking about a young girl, if I'm not wrong, only 16 years old for Antonella Bassani. It's nice to see how mature she is already now attacking Carlos Campos. It seems that she has the pace to overtake, but in the beginning of the season she was very nervous, but now has already adapted to these Porsche cars, and we see that she has speed. It's only a matter of being a little bit more consistent in terms of balancing the qualifying pace and the race pace, because she's very aggressive. And actually, the reason why she overtakes so much is that it's because she's actually starting a little bit behind the position she should be, considering how fast she is. But the good thing for us is that we can watch a very entertaining race, and Antonella Bassani is definitely one of the highlights of this Sprint Challenge Championship grid. We are talking about a 2 times finalist of the FIA Girls on Track program, and she is a member of the Young Racing Academy of Porsche Cup Brazil. So maybe until the end of the year, we have the first female winner in Porsche Cup Brazil, as we see that Marcelo Tomazoni clocks the fastest lap time so far.
Even so, Carlos, that in theory she's faster than the drivers ahead. I think she's very aggressive in a nice way, in a positive way. That she goes for it. She believes in it. She goes for it. Sometimes a more experienced driver will be more cautious on everything, but she believes in it. She goes for it. So I think it's part of the beauty of watching her compete. At least for me, I'm very impressed and I'm very excited to see this young lady developing in motorsports.
Yeah, of course, we can already see that she's improving, and I completely agree. She's a bold, dashing, audacious driver already, showing her credentials from the very beginning of the season, actually. But last time out at Velocitar, he had a very nice round. Oh, Junqueira.
Antônio Junqueira, yeah. Antônio Junqueira, he was third overall in the championship. He has problems that definitely doesn't help him. He is back on track, but he for sure lost a few positions. Let's see what happened to him. I don't know if there was some touch or if
It
it
was
was by
before.
himself. So, yeah, because we didn't see exactly what triggered the spin. The
Oh, I think he tried to attack in the inside line, but Junqueira himself maybe realized he wouldn't be able to brake and turn to the left. So he avoided contact with the car that was ahead and went wide in order to avoid a crash. And Carlos Campos has a problem.
Yes. Carlos Campos having a problem. Let's see if we find out. Oh, by himself. Was Carlos Campos there? Yeah, there he is. All by himself, Carlos. I don't think there was any touch. I don't know how you saw it.
I didn't see any touch as well. Oh, one more car, Marco Tulio, I believe. Let's see if there's the replay. He was the pole position of the rookie class in this Sprint Challenge Championship. So that's a blow for him, definitely. An eventful race so far, Sergio.
Yes. Sério Brasil leads the rookie class. He's in the 13th position overall. Number 33 of Gustavo Zanon leads the sports class. And we see there a very interesting situation. The top 5 are from the challenge, the main sprint challenge category. But we have Urubatan Jr. in 16th. Oh, again, problems with Marco Tulio. So that might be a bigger problem that we first thought, or at least he was not able to recuperate. And he has behind him, yeah, look, all by himself, apparently. Yeah, he was by himself.
Yeah, driving mistake, it happens. That's why he's in the rookie class, even though the guys from the main class, they make mistakes as well. But anyway, it's part of the learning process. You begin in the class that in theory is the most democratic one, then you go step by step until the higher classes and even the Carrera Cup Championship. That's what happened, for example, with Raijan Mascarello, reigning champion of the Sprint Challenge Championship, now racing in the sport class of the Carrera Cup Championship, as we see the onboard camera also of Marcelo Tomazoni, I believe, or Christian Moore, I didn't see. But anyway, there's a gap. The lead is being managed very well by Christian Moore, as we see his onboard camera now to the right of the screen, but he cannot make any mistake. Marcelo Tomazoni is a very wise driver, and he certainly will capitalize on any mistake by Christian Moore. So with more than 13 minutes to go, I would say almost 15 minutes, considering that we have one extra lap, the situation is not comfortable for Moore, even though he's ahead of the pack and managing his lead, because Tomazoni will try to attack, and we have to wait and see, as Antonella Bassani is trying to attack, I believe, Gustavo Zanon there.
Yeah, I think it's Josimar Jr., no? Or
yeah, Josimar Jr.
Josimar Jr.
I got confused because of the orange livery. That's it, the car number 77. Gustavo Zanon is actually a little bit behind. Let me double check his position. He's 6th, so 2 spots behind Antonella Bassani. Both Zanon and Junior, they have the orange livery. Whoa!
Oh, and he went off track. So Antonella Bassani is 3rd place. He felt the pressure. Carlos, and he might lose 4th position as well.
Miguel Mariotti there trying to get this position. Is that right? Yeah, that's it. The green car there. Ooh, heavy penalty there for Israel Salman, I believe. Excluded from the race due to that incident that we had earlier in the race. So a harsh penalty for the driver of the car number 133, as we see Josimar Jr. going wide once more. And I think you explained it perfectly, Sergio. He definitely felt the pressure from Antonella Bassani, and that's it, the confirmation of the penalty. So we thought initially that it was Eduardo Taurisano's fault, but actually Israel Salman caused the whole incident, so that's why he is disqualified from the race, and that's why also Eduardo Taurisano was quite angry when he left his car.
Yeah, and I think we owe a correction for that. It was not Taurisano. It was hard to see exactly what happened behind, but it's good to know, because he did very well in the sprint trophy, the school category from Porsche Cup. That's why he went to this sprint challenge, the main sprint challenge, and that's good to know, because I'm sure we'll be seeing him having good performance in the future here. And that was not a rookie mistake, but it was a mistake by Israel Salman, who had a problem. Israel Salman as well also was upgraded from rookie to sport class from the last race. But it's fine. I mean, it happens. But I noticed in the last race, I believe, sprint race, we had also some harsh penalties. And it's good that the race director is being tough on the guys, because, you know, that's a good way to keep the discipline, to keep everybody on track.
Yeah, definitely. It's part of the learning process as well, dealing with the stewards' penalties. The stewards have to be, of course, serious when they apply any penalty. They cannot take into account the fact that the driver is not experienced. What happens, and the decision has to be made considering what they saw in the track. But anyway, of course, it was a driving mistake there from Israel Salman. Ooh, that's Simão.
We see Claudio Simão, exactly. Claudio Simão, number 58.
Let's wait and see if there's the replay. There it is.
He was running 18th. Oh, there was a touch there. There was a touch with Urubatan Jr. Urubatan Jr. who is coming from behind.
Yeah. A mix of touch and driving mistake, I would say, because he was battling side by side there with Urubatan Jr. Another spin there, car number 20,
That's
19.
Walter Lester.
Yeah, Walter Lester. But actually, nice to see that Urubatan Jr. didn't retire the car. I thought that he was out of the race due to that incident in the beginning of this race. But anyway, this incident was a little bit weird because they touch each other, but the battle continues, and then the driver spins. So a mix of the touch and a driving mistake there, as we saw Gustavo Zanon's car in the repair area in the pits. Ooh,
Oh,
Miguel
another
Mariachi.
one. Wow.
No,
Yeah, that was
Salman.
Israel Salman.
He has been disqualified already.
Yeah, so I don't know what he's doing there, but anyway.
Having fun, I would say, but
Yeah.
cannot collect other cars.
I don't think he can stay there, but hey, we see there Luis Souza, he has behind him Seba Malucelli. That's Seba Malucelli trying to overtake Luis Souza, battle for the 13th position. Seba Malucelli, it was not hard, Carlos. He just passed by, with no big difficulty for Seba Malucelli. Seba Malucelli is from the sports class, and Luis Souza is from the rookie class. Actually, Luis Souza is running currently second in the rookie class behind Célio Brasil. Célio Brasil still leads the rookie class. He is top 10th overall. And there, as we see that Israel Salman finally goes to the pits and he retired his car due to the race director's directive.
And once more, we see the fight for the lead. And it's interesting because Christian Moore isn't able to extend his advantage, the gap there. Marcelo Tomazoni is consistently close, even though he's not in a striking distance yet. But with 7 minutes to go, there's still a lot to come, definitely, Sergio.
Yes, we will have one more lap after that, or two. Sometimes it's 2 laps, depending on when the driver crosses the line. It's never 2 complete laps, but it's at least 1 complete lap. Depending on the time the driver crosses, it's 2 or 1 lap. Less than 7 minutes to go. This is the 5th race of the 2023 Porsche Cup C6 Bank Mastercar Sprint Championship. This is the 5th round of this year Porsche Cup Brazil. We had already also 1 round of the Endurance Championship. So we had previous to this 2 rounds of the Sprint Championship in Interlagos, the main racetrack in Brazil. Everybody knows Interlagos. And the second one at Velocitar, which is in the interior of São Paulo. And then we had the first endurance race in Interlagos. And now this is the 3rd sprint round, because we have 2 races for each round. And there he is, Carlos, Christian Moore. Christian Moore with Marcelo Tomassoni trying to get closer to him. Marcelo Tomassoni is working there. The difference is still, it's not a small difference, there is still a difference, but for sure, Christian Moore cannot commit any mistake there with Sadaka Late. Now we see number 66 is in 6th place, and he's the leader in the sport class, ahead of Carlos Campos.
Yeah, that's it. An interesting situation so far with a little bit more than 5 minutes to go. A lot of battles throughout the whole grid, and now we see that the grid is a little bit divided, if we can say so. That 5 cars in the top positions of this main sprint challenge class, then a lot of drivers from the sport class with Sadaki Leite ahead of the pack. Interesting to see Sadaki leading, because he was actually the fastest of the free practice that we had yesterday. So actually he's bouncing back to his driving standards after being out qualified in today's qualifying session earlier this Saturday. But Campos isn't that far, even though the gap is quite manageable, to say the least, for Sadak Leite. And then the guys from the rookie class with a good situation for Célio Brasil. He's actually racing quite alone there and has to bring the car home in order to win in his class, as we see that Antonio Junqueira is trying to recuperate some positions after that driving mistake.
Yeah, nice work by Bruno Junqueira, by Antonio Junqueira. Pardon me, the confusion. Bruno Junqueira, of course, is, well, I think he's retired now, not right, Carlos, but he competed in IndyCar and other categories cars. But anyway, we have there, and Antonio Junqueira is able to overtake Artur Ramos, so he goes back to his original position, Carlos. Antonio Junqueira started in 8th, and now he's back to 8th position ahead of Artur Ramos. He will try to get closer to Carlos Campos, who is in 7th. And I would say it's not impossible. It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible for Antonio Junqueira to maybe get 7th position from Carlos Campos.
No, not impossible at all. We have more than 4 laps to come. A bit more than that, depending on what happens. And he's not that far, so if he clocks good lap times there, he can cut the gap there to Campos and attack. And a good damage contention for Antonio Junqueira after that driving mistake, because one could think that he maybe would retire the car or something like that, but he's snatching important points there, especially thinking about the championship standings. He's leading his class, so any result, any points will be important in order to maintain a considerable advantage there, and a good of course damage contention, as I said, and also a good build up to tomorrow's race as well. We have 2 races, one for each championship, Carrera Cup and Sprint Challenge, tomorrow, this Sunday, at Motorsport TV as well.
We see Antonio Junqueira trying to get close to Carlos Campos. Carlos Campos, Porsche number 14. There we have the 139 of Célio Brasil. Célio Brasil, who leads in the rookie class. There he is. He's the rookie class leader. That's why we highlight him. And actually having a very good race. He is top 10 at this point. He's P10. He's ahead of Ramon Alcaraz, for example, who is from the sport class. Ramon Alcaraz is 2 seconds behind Célio Brasil. Célio Brasil got 6 positions at the start of the race. He started 16th overall. He's in 10th. Ramon Alcaraz started in 18th. He's in 11th right now. Also a very good race for Ramon Alcaraz.
Interesting penalty there for Urubatán Jr. for causing this collision, with Claudio Simão. So 20 seconds added to Urubatán Jr.'s race time after the checkered flag. Harsh penalty, I would say, but it seems that indeed Urubatán Jr. goes a bit to the left in order to close the door for Simão, and then he causes the collision that made Simão spin as well. So that's it.
Yeah, at least it was not an exclusion of the race, Carlos. It would have been worse for Urubatán Jr. Urubatán Jr. is in the 12th position. He's not that far ahead of Seba Malucelli, but he has a reasonable, he might lose, no, actually he's 13 seconds ahead of Seba Malucelli and 4 seconds ahead of Luis Souza. So he might lose 3 positions with this 20-second penalty, which is bad, of course, but it's not the worst.
Yeah, whoa.
Problems with Américo Lanzoni. Américo Lanzoni was 18th overall.
And a difficult weekend for Américo Lanzoni. Now, this issue, and in the qualifying session, he was quite off the pace, considering his class rivals. As we see that Christian Moore now opens a bit of a gap, and I think that Marcelo Tomazoni has settled for the 2nd position. Sergio.
Yes, I think he's conformed to that. It seems like the difference is of almost 3 seconds, 2.745. Antonella Bassani is in 3rd. She is way behind the 2nd place. She is almost 5 seconds behind 2nd place, so that's a huge difference there between these two, with Miguel Mariotti running 4th and Josimar Jr. in 5th. These are the top 5 cars so far. And the Christian Moore started on pole position. Marcelo Tomassoni got 1 position, Antonella Bassani 6, Miguel Mariotti 1, and Josimar Jr. in 5th. Carlos lost 3 positions from his position at the starting grid.
Yeah, that's it. Difficult race for a lot of drivers, as we see that Christian Moore is attacking a bit the curb there. Of course, managing his lead, but always aggressive in order to not give any chances to Marcelo Tomazzoni. 2 laps to go now, so once he crosses the line, we will have the last lap, and I think that his position is a bit guaranteed unless if he makes a very big mistake there. But very good race from Christian Moore, we have to highlight, because for quite a while, actually, Marcelo Tomazzoni was putting a bit of a pressure, and we all know how consistent in terms of race pace Marcelo is. So Christian Moore was able to defend himself from that strategic attack, and we see there in the end of the screen we saw Antonella Bassani. We also have to highlight Antonella, to praise her, because from P9 to P3 it's quite an accomplishment.
Yes, with this victory, Christian Moore, he started the race 11 points behind Marcelo Tomassoni in the standings. He should diminish this gap by 3 points, but of course we have the results to be discarded. The worst result for Marcelo Tomassoni, 16th. Christian Moore is 16 points. Christian Moore is 13 points, so that's another 3 points there. But the discarding points, because it's always at the end of the season that we have to consider. We never know what might happen. As we see Christian Moore going for yet one more victory in his career. It will be his first victory this year in the Porsche Cup Sprint Challenge Championship, first race in Goiânia. Last laps for Christian Moore from the start to the end, started in pole position, was able to keep his first position, defending himself very well in the first turn, and now he's going to get the fruits for that. He is going to be top on the charts, and he's going to diminish his difference for the first place in the championship. Christian Moore, great race, perfect race for him. Uncheckered flag wins Christian Moore in Goiânia. Carlos, a very interesting race. Marcelo Tomassoni will finish it in the second position, with Antonella Bassani was able to diminish a lot the gap between her and Marcelo Tomassoni at the end, but even so, she got third position with Porsche number 72, and then Miguel Mariotti fourth, and Josimar Jr. fifth place, Carlos Costa.
Yeah, that's it, and Sadaki Leite winning in the sport class, and now Célio Brasil crossing the checkered flag there in order to win in the rookie class. So nice race, as you said, and a very dominant race from Christian Moore. Led from start to finish, fended off any attacks, especially by Marcelo Tomazzoni. So he was able to control his advantage, manage the gap there. Of course, very careful to be on the lead until the very end of the race. So no mistakes from the driver that we see on the screen. And we see that Urubatán Jr. seems to have an issue there. But anyway, a very important victory for Christian Moore, especially thinking about the championship standings, as you said, diminishing the gap to Marcelo Tomazzoni, the season leader. And now Sadaki Leite also celebrating. He led yesterday's free practice, didn't have such a good qualifying session earlier today, but now with a good pace and a good result, as did Célio Brasil. Too, an interesting display from the rookie class winner. A clean race, which is the most important thing, especially in the lower classes, if we can say so, because these Porsche Cup Brazil races, they are always eventful, and if you are far from the crashes, the incidents, that's a good signal, and then you can profit after other cars' retirement. So very nice race one for the Sprint Challenge round at Goiânia, and then 2 races to come tomorrow, one of the Carrera Cup and one of the Sprint Challenge as well. So I would say that the guys that watched these races of Saturday with us, Sergio, they certainly will be eager to watch tomorrow as well, because Porsche Cup Brazil always delivers entertaining races.
Yes, definitely, Carlos. We see there Christian Moore going to the pits. I want to highlight also, Carlos, that Célio Brasil, the rookie class winner, finished in 9th. So that was a great work for him. And Antonio Junqueira, after all, was able to finish in 7th. So even though he had a problem, it was not a good race for him overall, I would say. He certainly lost points in the championship battle, but it could have been worse after the mistake could have been worse after the mistake he committed in the beginning of the race. So we have Christian Moore going there. This beautiful day in Goiânia, capital of the state of Goiás, in the central part of Brazil.
Yeah, he will go to the top, the roof of the car there. And just talking quickly about Antonio Junqueira, I completely agree. It's always easy to give up when you make such a mistake, but he was, of course, very eager to compensate, and he was able to do so with his driving ability. So, of course, not a good race, an important driving mistake, but anyway, good damage contention, as we see Christian Moore celebrating in the roof of the car, and he deserves that race win because his driving was perfect, always fending off the attacks, no mistakes.
Christian Moore, a gente conversou pouco antes,
was built
e você falou que
from the
a
beginning of
confiança
the day.
estava voltando, agora
Let's hear
voltou
from
com
it.
tudo, provou na pista, né?
Ah, com certeza. A gente, quando vem de uma boa classificação, já dá mais confiança. E a equipe está de parabéns, o carro estava muito bom. Só tenho a agradecer ao meu coach, Gardinho Maurício, ao meu mecânico Diego, ao meu engenheiro Rafael. Foi tudo perfeito, fantástico. Parabéns para eles. E para todos os patrocinadores que estão aqui.
Parabéns. Luque.
Yeah, we heard there from Christian Moore celebrating, of course, very, very happy after this race win. He didn't talk that much about how he built the triumph, but anyway, saying thank you to all his sponsors and friends. He has to celebrate, and it is indeed a very important, as we pointed, because in terms of championship standings, it is a relevant result, as we see now Sadaki Leite celebrating as well. Let's see if he will go to the roof of the car, but anyway, the most important thing is the number 1 that he's making with his fingers there. An important result also for Sério Brasil, as we see him celebrating alongside Sadaki Leite. These intermediate classes, they always are interesting, Sergio, because there's a lot of action, overtakes, touches, crashes, and as I said, it's always nice to watch an entertaining race, and it was once more this Saturday at Goiânia.
Yeah, Sadaki Leite, who is third in the Sprint Challenge Sports Championship, he's just 3 points behind Seba Malucheri. So this is good for him to battle for the second position. The problem for the two cars is that Antonio Junqueira is 22 points ahead. I mean, he started this race 22 points ahead of Seba Malucheri, but Antonio Junqueira, he finished right behind Sadaki Leite, so he's not going to lose many points to Sadaki Leite, and he's not losing any points over Seba Malucheri. Actually, he's going to win points over Seba Malucheri, so his lead should increase. I would say at this point, because this is a driver who they should be moving to the main Sprint Challenge Championship. That's, of course, it's not up to us to do that, but I would think it might be the situation, because it's totally uneven, the battle at this point for the Sprint Challenge Sports Championship.
I agree, and the championship standings, they say that, because even with the driving mistake, Antonio Junqueira will be way ahead of the pack there. His damage contention then was very important today after going a little bit wide, but even in this situation he was able to catch up with his class rivals and even gain some spots, important points for him because of that. And I agree, considering his track record, a former GT Sprint Race driver that is now NASCAR Brazil, so he has a lot of mileage to his bag, so he has the knowledge, he has the speed, he has been having the pace so far, adapting very fast to this Porsche car, so maybe that's the case, as you said, to promote him to the main carrera, the main Sprint Challenge class actually.
We see there Christian Moore, Tomassoni, Antonella Bassani, Miguel Mariotti, and Josimar Jr. were the top five drivers that we saw on the podium are from the main sprint challenge category. So at the end, they were able to prevail. It didn't happen in the Carrera Cup, where we had Lucas Salles from the sport class among the top 5, but here in the sprint challenge we had. Tomorrow we will have 2 more races. We still show the other podiums here, but tomorrow we have 2 more races for the Carrera Cup and the sprint challenge. It will be after at around 1 p.m. Brazilian time that we will start, 4 p.m. GMT or 12 p.m. US Eastern Time. Now we have Sadaki Leite on top, then Antonio Junqueira in second. In third, we have Arthur Ramos. In fourth, we have Célio Brasil, and then Ramon Alcaraz. To note that Célio Brasil in fourth is from the rookie class, but he competes there. He got the podium as well. So great work by him. These are the top 5 for the sport class.
And that's a shame for Carlos Campos. He had some issues in the final stages of the race after such a good qualifying session earlier today. Pole sitter in his class, but anyway, the aftermath of race 1 of the Sprint Challenge Championship at Goiânia wasn't good at all for Carlos. Let's hear from Renato Diniz once more.
Em versão de 6 posições amanhã. E o Cris queria dar um recado muito especial por conta dessa vitória, né, Cris?
Eu queria dar um recado pro meu pai, que há 2 meses atrás ele quase morreu. E hoje ele tá bem de saúde e tá recuperado, ele tá bem, tá me vendo lá em casa. Tamo junto, pai. Te amo.
Olha aí pra câmera, manda um beijão pra ele aqui, ó. Boa. Muita emoção para aquilo aqui.
Yeah, nice and touching interview there with Christian Moore, a very emotional celebration for him. He said that 2 months ago his father almost died, but now he has recuperated and is watching his son win today's race at Goiânia through the television. So, of course, a very touching moment for Christian Moore, and he's paying tribute to his father, of course. Very nice to hear that his dad is already okay.
In the rookie class, Célio Brasil is there. He is a top driver for the rookie class. Then in second, we had Luiz Souza, then Cláudio Simão, Eric Santos, and Marco Túlio. Cláudio Simão was able to get a 3rd place. He had a few problems during the race, Carlos, but he's coming from that sprint trophy category from Porsche Cup, a school category.
Vamos falar com o Sadaki Leite, que é pura alegria, pura emoção aqui.
Renata.
Que baita evolução na categoria. Pois é, então. Não, comenta tudo.
Na classificação eu estava na expectativa de ir bem. Eu perdi a primeira volta e a minha segunda volta rápida deu um problema no carro e aí eu peguei trânsito, matou minha classificação no Q1. E aí não fui para os 10 primeiros, né? E aí acabei largando em 11º, mas a escalada foi perfeita.
Uma baita prova de recuperação.
Muito. Fantástico. Estou muito feliz, cara. O resultado foi fantástico no final.
A boa notícia?
A boa notícia é que amanhã é pole, né?
Amanhã tem mais.
Amanhã tem mais.
E é pole, hein?
É pole.
Com a inversão aí. Tá, é só alegria, Sadaki Leite. Parabéns.
Valeu, obrigado.
É isso, Luque.
Yeah, we heard there from Sadaki Leite, the sport class winner today. He talked about the qualifying session. As I said, he didn't have such a good quali. Actually, his first lap was deleted as far as I got. And then the second attempt had some issues, also traffic. But anyway, starting from 11th on the grid, he was able to have a good recovery race and now the class win. So a lot of happiness for Sadaki Leite, and he deserves to celebrate as well. Good result for the driver in the sport class division. We talked about the championship standings a bit ago, so let's wait and see if he manages to get a good result tomorrow in order to catch up with Antonio Junqueira. But he has to count with Junqueira's bad luck or any mistake, Sergio.
Yeah, the good thing, Carlos, I would say is that by the draw that Porsche does, he will start first tomorrow and Antonio Junqueira will be 7th. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you all very much for being with us and see you in the next Porsche Cup Brazil race. Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.